Are you seeing that elective procedures will be one of the procedures that is really delayed versus other areas such as, well, maybe things that are required to enhance the retina during this time?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, you're going to see this vary by country and vary by state, largely dependent upon how impacted they were. We're seeing a bit of refractive coming back earlier, which makes more sense, I think, because remember that these customers, the surgeons had a backlog, if you will, of patients who they stopped operating on. So that many of those patients still want to have the procedure, and many in that demographic are younger and therefore inherently likely healthier. And then you get into cataract, forget about refractive cataract for a moment. Cataract patients, which are likely the target demographic that is more impacted by COVID-19, at least have the more severe consequences. So those people are going to be, one, told to shelter in place likely longer than the normal. And then also, even when they're released, I think it's going to be a bit of consternation around going back. So I think we're going to see that play out. Certainly those patients, as they feel safe, and as we, together with our surgeon partners in this, can make them feel safe, I think we'll see a faster return.
This must be the challenge that a lot of ophthalmologists are facing, continuing with procedures as normal versus, well, let's say for cash flow reasons, but at the same time, there's the safety aspect of it. So what do you think about all this? Do you think, that clinics should, by and large, try to delay as long as possible, or what would you say?
You could argue that in this time when we've all had a chance to shelter in place together and reflect on how important our families are to us, to reflect how important our health is, sight becomes even more important. So the real question is, will the patients come? And I believe they will. I believe that safety piece is really important. And the discussion today was both parties wearing masks, plexiglass shields to ensure that people feel safe, social distancing in the waiting rooms or no waiting room, doing it virtually, ensuring that we have the appropriate cleaning and the demonstration to patients that they're doing the appropriate cleaning so that people have a really, really good sense. So we need to demonstrate safety to one another, and that's going to be really, really important.
Do you think that in some ways the Asian markets, because of their experience with SARS, may return to business a little quicker, and therefore, these are also important markets for ophthalmology as an industry to engage at this period of time?
I think that China's done a nice job by all accounts of managing it. Maybe that's from experiences they've had with this type of thing, SARS in particular. And I think the population wants to get on with their lives. And so what we're seeing is exactly what we described, which is a return of the patients and a return of the capacity by the surgeons. And as recently as April, we see quite the return. And I suspect there will be an even more return in May, assuming that we're able to go through this and manage it without, spikes and recurrences and things of that nature. But it's not just China, it's other markets. And so we're seeing a few markets begin to open up in Europe. We're seeing a few states here in the US begin to open. And so I think we'll all be keenly watching, obviously, to make sure that we're safe. We want to keep our people safe. That's most important to Johnson & Johnson. I know it's important to the other industry players. And it's going to be important that we keep the patient safe as well.
Well, when you're thinking about, leading J&J through this period, I'm not sure what product launches you might have had on the horizon, but in terms of a business, how do you deal with something like product launch this year?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we talk a lot about this. And I would just say a couple of things are really important. And you've heard me say them now already, I guess. But the safety of our people is above all else. And so in order to launch a product historically, it requires personnel. It requires personnel having individual conversations, having professional education discussions. Typically, these things happen at an in-person congress, such as ASCRS, where we had planned to launch some products. All of those things are a bit off the table now. It doesn't mean we still can't launch products, and we intend to. It's just that there's two things that are most important: our people safety, and then secondly, but right there with it is we have to have the right empathy for what our customers may be going through. These are And in many instances, they're independent business women and men that are trying to sort their own scenarios out. And us walking in with or without PPE and having a conversation about what's good for us from a product launch, we don't have a lot of interest in. We would much rather try and understand how can we partner today and help prop up ophthalmology so that we all can together help patients as we go forward. So that's really the focus for us. And I want to make sure that our customers hear that. Beyond that, it's around education. We're still moving products through the regulatory processes. We're still building information so that we can educate both consumers and customers on the products that we have. And then in due time, we will have the appropriate conversations, and we're always available to answer questions, both questions through our medical information request, but also questions through our forward-facing field representatives, but only with those two things in mind first.